This video is going to show you how to use the Eastern Florida State College databases and also review the paper 4 guidelines and requirements. So the library databases can be accessed by going to the college homepage, and then at the top there's a link for library. If you've never used the library, then you may need to look over this information over here, the library account and card. Just gives you a rundown of how to log in. You'll need to know your B number, and then also your password is your birthday. If you do have issues, if you're locked out, you can always contact a librarian. If we go back to the home page, we'll see over here there's a chat with a librarian. You can text, email, or give them a call, and they can reset your password if you are locked out. So now let's look at the paper 4 guidelines. So this is a analytical research paper. So I'm not asking you to persuade or take a side on an argument. What I'm asking is for you just to come up with a topic that is interesting for you to research based off of one of the stories from the textbook, and then find some outside sources using the library databases to explore this topic. So it is not your intent to persuade the audience that your stance is the right stance. So say you're going to pick a controversial topic about, like the second one I have here, just as an example, is the effects of globalization. Globalization is something that is a topic. It could be controversial. You could take a side and say that globalization is doing more harm than good, but that's not the purpose of this assignment. So your purpose would be to kind of, if you were to pick something that is controversial, to show both sides of the argument, but not to show bias and to say, oh, well, this side's better than the other. That's not the purpose of this assignment. These examples I have listed here are just examples. You do not have to use one of these. You can pick your own, but I just wanted to kind of show you how to get started. These only took me a few seconds because I looked in the index, and I also just kind of went through the book and looked at titles that were interesting to me. I like to emphasize how the title can be the first thing that you see a lot of times, and it could be the thing that gives you an idea of, am I interested in this topic? So something like Vampires Never Die, if you enjoy the vampire cult films, if you like the zombie films and all of that, then that might be a title that grabs your attention. But if it's something that you're not interested in, then you don't want to write on that, right? This is based on what you're interested in. There's tons of text in this textbook to choose from, so please make sure you give this first step enough time and really go through the textbook and find something that is interesting to you. So the first step is to just kind of figure out what is something that you're interested in. You may have more than one interest, which is fine, and that's what this discussion forum is for. If we go to discussion 9 this week, this is where you can just post some ideas. So if you have more than one, then you can go ahead and post those, and then I can give you some feedback. Your classmates can give you some feedback, and then as the week progresses, you can narrow down exactly what you do want to write your research paper on. And then you can get to working with coming up with a research question and answering that question, which would be the thesis, and then also starting your research. So, so the first step is to come up with the stories and just the topic. The next is to narrow down by creating your thesis or main idea. So let's first one of the things that I may do first after I come up with the topic before I create a thesis is to go out and see what kind of research is out there on it. Because if you're struggling to find research on this topic, then that might not be what you want to write about. You don't want to make it more difficult and torturous than it has to be. I love talking to my husband about my writing assignments because he is the complete opposite from me. He is a science, math-minded person, and writing a paper is like the least favorite thing. He'd rather go get back surgery. He's already had it once, so he can vouch that he would prefer surgery than probably writing a research paper. So I know there's some of you out there that are like, oh my gosh, it's the last paper, let's just get it done. But let's try to make it as enjoyable, I guess, as we can, even if writing is not something that you enjoy doing. Trying to make the best out of this and learn how to use the library databases. Even if you don't enjoy the writing process, there is something to understanding how to research and find good sources, because that is part of a higher level of critical thinking. We want to make sure that we are able to sort out the bad sources from the good, reliable, credible sources. And we also want to make sure we're able to read those sources from these journals and chapters from textbooks and whatnot, because those are going to be written at a higher level than if you find something on Google. I think that what it says that a newspaper is written for the average reader at like a middle school reading level. So we want to use sources that are written for people who are experts in the field. And we want to get comfortable reading those types of sources, because as you progress in your academics, you're going to take more classes that require you to read these types of journals. And so it's good to get familiar with it now.